The system is supposed to protect you. It's supposed to protect all of us. But what happens when it doesn't? What happens when justice picks favorites? When race, gender, and power decide who gets remembered and who gets erased? Tonight on Vivid Nightmares, we're not telling just one story. We're telling three. 3 cases from the South, 3 black lives, each taken or silenced. A hairstylist and 2 women gunned down in broad daylight by a jealous man. A 23-year-old girl shot during a race riot while police stood by and did nothing. And a man who was last seen getting into a patrol car and was never seen again. These aren't cold cases, they're chilling truths. This is vanished, silenced, and gunned down. This is Vivid Nightmares.
Leaving a 5-star review doesn't summon any spirits. Probably. But it does help Vivid Nightmares reach more true crime lovers who like their cases with a side of creepy. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. Click the stars and help me keep the nightmares coming.
It was the summer of 1969. America was burning, from civil rights marches, police violence, and long-buried hate clawing its way to the surface. In York, South Carolina, tensions were high. Black residents were pushing for equality, white residents were pushing back, and in the middle of it was Lillie Belle Allen. Lillie was 23 years old, a nursing student from Aiken. She had come to York with her family to visit her father, who was a preacher at a local church. She wasn't involved in protests. She wasn't marching. She wasn't trying to make a scene. She was just passing through. On July 21st, 1969, she and her family were driving through York when they made a wrong turn onto Arlington Avenue, a neighborhood that was already charged with racial tension. White residents had set up makeshift barricades. They stood armed in the streets. Some carried shotguns, others held clubs. And that night, many of them were drunk. The Allen family, unaware, drove into that street by mistake. And the moment they were seen, the shooting started. Lillie Belle was hit in the chest. She stumbled from the car and collapsed on the pavement. Her father and brothers screamed for help, but none came. York police were on scene. They had been watching the street, fully aware of the white mob and the guns, but they did nothing. They didn't stop the violence. They didn't protect Lillie Belle, and no one was arrested that night. Not one person. It wasn't until 2001, more than 30 years later, that the case was reopened. The York County Solicitor's Office, along with federal investigators, began re-examining evidence. They interviewed members of the white mob. They re-interviewed officers. And finally, they got a confession. One of the white men who had fired shots that night, Roger Gregory, admitted that Lillie Belle Allen had not provoked anyone. She had not yelled. She had not thrown anything. She was simply black and in the wrong place. In 2003, Gregory and 2 other men, Steve Snodgrass and Gerald Quick, were charged with murder. Snodgrass was convicted of voluntary manslaughter. The others accepted plea deals, but by then, Lillie's parents were gone. Her siblings had lived with the trauma for 3 decades. And York, South Carolina, had spent 30 years pretending it didn't happen. Lillie Belle Allen didn't die in war. She didn't die fighting. She died trying to visit her father. She died in a country that wasn't ready to treat her like she mattered. And even when her killers were finally brought to trial, no one ever explained why it took 30 years for the system to say, this was murder.
Have your own theory about tonight's case? Think the wrong person was blamed, or maybe someone wasn't blamed enough? Hit us up on Instagram or TikTok and drop your theory in the comments. I love hearing your take on these twisted stories. Your voice might even make it into a future episode. November 6, 2001, Florence, Montana. A quaint town nestled in the Bitterroot Valley, where life moves at a gentle pace and neighbors greet each other by name. Along Highway 93 stood the Hair Gallery, a modest salon that served as a communal haven. A place where stories were shared and laughter echoed over the hum of hairdryers. But that morning, serenity shattered. A client, arriving late for her 11 a.m. appointment, stepped into a scene that would forever scar the town's memory. Just inside the entrance, she discovered the lifeless body of Dorothy Harris. the 62-year-old salon owner, lying in a pool of blood. Authorities were summoned immediately. As they combed through the salon, 2 more victims were found in a back storage room. Brenda Patch, 44, the salon's manicurist, and Cynthia Paulus, 71, a cherished client. All 3 women had suffered fatal throat slashes, a methodical and brutal execution. The horror of the crime was compounded by its brazenness, a triple homicide, carried out in broad daylight, in a bustling salon adjacent to a busy highway. The community's shock was palpable. Fear seeped into every corner of Florence. Witnesses reported seeing an oddly dressed man leaving the salon around the time of the murders. Descriptions highlighted a long black trench coat and a distinctive wide-brimmed hat, attire that seemed out of place in time. Investigators delved into the case, exploring every lead. Years later, in 2008, 2 men, Brian Weber and Lincoln Benavides, were indicted. Prosecutors alleged that Benavides, a known drug trafficker, had ordered Weber to carry out the killings over an unpaid drug debt. However, the case against them unraveled. Due to insufficient evidence, all murder charges were eventually dropped. Both men were convicted on unrelated drug charges and remain incarcerated. But the justice sought for Dorothy, Brenda, and Cynthia remains elusive. Decades have passed, yet the pain endures. Families mourn without closure, and the salon, once a symbol of community, stands as a haunting reminder of lives stolen. If you possess any information about this case, please contact Detective Sergeant Matt Cashell at the Ravalli County Sheriff's Office at 40637540224. In the next segment, we'll explore another chilling case where silence and shadows intertwine. Stay with us. This show runs on coffee, research rabbit holes, and Southern ghost stories whispered in the dark. If you'd like to support Vivid Nightmares, consider leaving a rating and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show reach more listeners. And if you want even more haunted history and unsolved stories, visit our link in the show notes to grab bonus content and more. Thanks for helping keep the nightmares vivid.
Terrance Williams was 27, a father, a brother, a man who had made some mistakes, sure, but was working to get back on his feet. On January 12, 2004, he was last seen in Naples, Florida, driving to a co-worker's house for a party. He never came home, he never called, he never showed up again. And the only clue? A white Collier County Sheriff's Deputy, Steve Calkins, who admitted to stopping Terrance that morning, and whose story kept changing. Terrance had been driving without a license and had a suspended tag, but Calkins didn't file an arrest report, didn't radio it in, didn't book Terrance. Instead, he claimed he gave Terrance a courtesy ride to a nearby Circle K gas station. That's it. That was the last place Calkins said he saw him. But when investigators pulled the security footage, Terrance wasn't on it. No one at the gas station remembered seeing him, and it got worse. When Terrance's mother, Marcia Williams, began pressing for answers, she discovered something even more disturbing. Just 3 months earlier, another man, Felipe Santos, a Mexican immigrant, had also gone missing. He too had been last seen with Deputy Steve Calkins. Same deputy, same courtesy ride story. No arrest, no record, no trace. 2 men of color, 1 deputy, 2 missing people. Terrance's car was later found abandoned, not at the Circle K, but illegally parked at a cemetery. And guess who called it in? Deputy Calkins. He claimed he found the car and ran the plates as a favor, but investigators would later prove he was the one who towed it there himself. When pressed, Calkins' tone became sarcastic. In one call, he's heard joking. Maybe he was transported by aliens. Calkins was eventually fired from the Collier County Sheriff's Office for inconsistencies and misconduct related to both disappearances. But he was never arrested, never charged. Both Terrance Williams and Felipe Santos are still missing. Marsha Williams, Terrance's mother, became the heart and soul of this case. She handed out flyers, hired private investigators, appeared on national TV. Eventually, she gained the support of actor Tyler Perry, who offered a $100,000 reward for information. Still, nothing, nobody, no answers, just silence. In 2021, the case was reclassified as a cold case homicide, but without new evidence, without anyone talking, Terrance's family is still left to wonder, what happened in that patrol car? What happened after that ride? And how many people have to disappear before we start holding every uniform accountable? 3 stories, 3 tragedies, 3 different states, and yet they all echo the same truth. Lillie Belle Allen was shot in the chest while running for her life in front of police during a race riot, and nobody went to jail until 3 decades later. Not because no one knew who did it, but because the town wasn't ready to admit what they allowed. And then there's Terrance Williams, a black man pulled over, given a courtesy ride by a white deputy, and never seen again. Not the first time, not the only man, and still, no charges, no justice, just vanished. There's a pattern here, a pattern of erasure, where violence against black lives, especially black women and men with less power, fewer resources, or complicated pasts, is dismissed, delayed, or outright ignored, where control, racism, and unchecked authority walk freely, while victims are buried, forgotten, or still missing. These aren't isolated tragedies. They are systemic failures. In every story tonight, someone tried to speak up, a mother, a sibling, a friend, and every time they were told to wait, to calm down, to stop making noise. But silence doesn't keep people safe. Silence kills. And when you connect the dots, when you zoom out, you don't see chaos. You see a pattern. And you start asking questions the system never wanted you to ask. Tonight, you've heard 3 stories. 3 lives interrupted. 3 families changed forever. But these were more than cases. They were people. So let's say their names again.
Dorothy Harris, 62, was a beloved salon owner who had turned the hair gallery into a safe space where community and care lived side by side. Brenda Patch, just 44, a talented manicurist and mother, was known for her gentle hands and even gentler heart. And Cynthia Paulus, 71, was a regular client who stopped in for a quick appointment before a basketball game, never knowing it would be her last. Their lives were taken with unimaginable violence. Their sanctuary turned into a crime scene. Even after years pass, the case remains unsolved, a shadow hanging over a town still searching for answers.
Lillie Belle Allen, a 23-year-old student visiting her father, murdered in broad daylight. While the town looked away, Terrance Williams, a father, a son, a man who trusted the wrong badge. He didn't just disappear, he was taken, and we still don't know where he is. These aren't just moments in time, they're warnings. They're reasons to pay attention, to speak louder, to ask harder questions, and most importantly, to never let their stories be forgotten, because the system won't remember them, but we can. You've been listening to Vivid Nightmares. I'm Bridgett Densie. And if tonight's stories moved you, say their names, share their stories. Keep asking what really happened. Follow Vivid Nightmares on your favorite podcast app and join me next week